Hello. Welcome to the fifth practice in the CITES framework. Take ownership of infrastructure development. The infrastructure of a district's technology system is the foundation on which technology is successfully used for teaching and learning. In addition to the availability, connectivity, devices, and software at school and home, considerations related to accessibility and assistive technology are essential to technology infrastructure that ensures equity and opportunity for all learners. If you haven't done so already, take a moment to watch the Leadership Overview video on the Leadership homepage. This video will provide additional considerations for leadership practices that support inclusive technology. In this section, however, users will review infrastructure supports that support inclusive technology and review examples of this work and resources to take your plan further. Planning for infrastructure is a lot like building a house. You wouldn't want to build a home and neglect to engage a plumber. By including a cross-departmental team, districts can ensure each and every end user is being considered. Key players in planning infrastructure for inclusive technology are the AT rep, the EdTech rep, the Infotech rep, but you can also include other personnel. The Tomball Independent School District in Tomball, Texas, identified key players that included an English language teacher and district administrators. These were the key representatives who began to build infrastructure regarding policy and procedures that ensure equity and opportunity for all learners. Consider for a moment, who would be the key players in your system?
Ensuring that purchased technologies, resources, and educational materials are widely usable and accessible to all is a critical part of infrastructure development. Creating policies that include accessibility standards, specifically Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act, help establish critical standards for adoption of technologies and content. Web designers, developers, and publishers can use the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also referred to as WCAG, to ensure the content being created meets federal specifications laid out in Section 508. Ensuring all procured items meet or exceed these guidelines is a great start at developing an inclusive technology infrastructure. Part of these policies in the district should include several guidelines to follow as part of a procurement process. Guidelines for procuring high-quality digital learning content that meets accessibility criteria, guidelines for the selection of library and media resources that include evaluation for accessibility, and when needed, the procurement of accessible formats. Guidance for testing accessible content for its compatibility with assistive technologies used in the district. Developing and implementing these guidelines as part of an infrastructure process can support the development of an inclusive technology infrastructure. Does your district currently have adoption policies and guidelines? Consider adding guidance for accessibility as you might for privacy and data interoperability. Once a district has set policy for the ability of technologies, resources, and materials to meet accessibility requirements, we can move on to discuss features that create more robust and personalized learning experiences. Enter Universal Design for Learning, otherwise known as UDL. The Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and the Higher Education Act define universal design as a concept or philosophy for designing and delivering products and services that are usable by people with the widest possible range of functional capabilities. This includes products and services that are directly accessible without requiring AT, or made accessible by interoperability with assistive technologies. Such technologies have personalization features that enable each and every learner the opportunity to interact and engage with content in a way that honors their needs and preferences. The Florida Department of Education developed a rubric for publishers to complete that provides districts with a summary of these types of tools and features. By purchasing accessible materials that meet Section 508 criteria and identifying product personalization features, districts can ensure materials are 1. Accessible, and 2. Usable by the widest audience. Last, but certainly not least, districts should strive to ensure accessibility not only in the design of content for learning, but also in those pieces of information sent to families and community partners. COVID created a need for educators to be creative with communicating for many purposes. Remote parent meetings, digital newsletters, and learning management systems are common ways districts continue to communicate. Ensuring these offerings are accessible to the broadest audience is critical when designing inclusive technology infrastructure. Some examples of features that increase accessibility include captions for videos, alternative text for images in documents and newsletters, and consistency and predictability of content entered into learning management systems. These resources and materials can follow those same WCAG guidelines to meet Section 508 standards. Creating accessible digital materials is essential for some, but good for all. Oof, that's a lot of information. So next steps for moving forward will provide opportunities to further consider how to establish inclusive technology infrastructure. First, review the TOML case story located in the leadership homepage and the Bethlehem Central School District story below. Then review the resources listed below to dive deeper into how to create accessible infrastructure. Lastly, use the self-assessment tool to identify where your district is with developing an infrastructure that supports inclusive technology.